Brazil has opened an obstruction of justice investigation after Elon personally, apparently, reactivated accounts that Brazil had ordered the platform to block.
Elon Musk unblocking somebody who was supposed to be blocked and ordered by a government. I'm not at all surprised.
And if it was Jair Bolsonaro asking him to remove content, he would have said, "You got it, sir," and danced a jig for him. The company formerly known as Twitter is now obeying more government requests to censor content, not less. Retro game emulators are now going to be available in the Apple App Store. It was worded that that if the emulators themselves are pirating the games, that they're going to remove them. I wonder if is that going to include the ability to add your own ROMs?
Well, we'll keep an eye on it, right?
Yeah, or maybe not, because I don't care. If I want to play retro games, that's because I am drunk and it's late at night and I have a Raspberry Pi for that. I am Dave. I'm the co-producer of this show and the producer of the other shows here at Echoplex Media. Check them out at your own risk. First one is Elon versus Brazil, and not Brazil the movie, which, by the way, I do encourage people to check out because it's like 1984 except nothing works. So what's going on here is Brazil has opened an obstruction of justice investigation after Elon personally, apparently, reactivated accounts that Brazil had ordered the platform to block. Twitter's global government affairs team says that this order actually violates Brazil's constitution and they plan to appeal because, I'm sure they're Brazilian constitution scholars. Musk has called for the judge who issued the order to resign or be removed. The order was primarily about a January 6th like event in January 8th of 2023, where Brazilians stormed government buildings in response to an election. Brazil's attorney general said, "We cannot live in a society in which billionaires domiciled abroad have control over social networks and put themselves in a position to violate the rule of law, failing to comply with court orders and threatening our authorities." According to a Forbes report, Twitter has complied with over 80% of government censorship requests, whereas previously, under the old regime, it was closer to 50%. A lot of times they told governments to go fuck themselves. What do you think about all this, Matt?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. You should see the movie Brazil. It's like 1984 if the government was incompetent. I'm not surprised that this happened. I don't know what's going to happen, but I guess Twitter is just going to get blocked or something in Brazil. It's pretty much the only thing they can do. Elon Musk unblocking somebody who was supposed to be blocked and ordered by a government. I'm not at all surprised.
So he said that we will, that we'll do anything that is, as long as it's not illegal in the government it's in. So I think what's going on here is, Jair Bolsonaro was defeated by Lula da Silva. Lula da Silva is a leftist, and the government's going to be run in a slightly different way, I suppose. And I figure that this is very likely motivated by Elon's dislike of leftists. And if it was Jair Bolsonaro asking him to remove content, he would have said, "You got it, sir," and danced a jig for him. I don't know for sure, but it seems like the number, if Forbes is to be believed, leftist Forbes, then this company, the company formerly known as Twitter, is now obeying more government requests to censor content, not less. And I'm assuming it's because people like Erdogan, formerly Jair Bolsonaro, but also Hungary, etc., are going to be the places I think where most of these requests are going to be coming from. These authoritarian governments or governments with a strongman-like leader. And like in the case of Hungary, Viktor Orban is like strongman-like leader, but the trappings of a republic are still there on paper. But I'm imagining that these are where the takedown requests are coming from. Also, probably Germany does that too, but Germany has some reasons, actually.
Yeah.
Germany has some recognition of their own history kinds of reasons for that. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't think Brazil is going to ban Twitter, but I do think they're probably going to levy fines. And I don't know how long it is until Elon retweets somebody like calling for the assassination of this judge or something, because that's sort of probably what's coming down the pike next. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't like the idea of governments telling these companies they have to ban certain people, but also I don't know. I don't run Brazil.
Right.
and nor does Elon. It's kind of what the judge said. Is the judge is like, this guy doesn't even live here, and he's trying to get, or the attorney general was like, trying to get people fired and threatening people over here in our country, and not great. The Americans wouldn't like it so much if there was a Brazilian business leader like threatening judges or the attorney general. Well, maybe we would. I don't know. Who knows? Actually, just depends on
Yeah,
who the
who knows?
judges and attorney generals were and what they were doing and whose case they were presiding over. Things have gotten a little bit wild here. Check out our other shows on this network for information about how wild things have gotten. The next story is actually, okay. Probably the devil's going to be in the details, but the next story is okay. This is retro game emulators are now going to be available in the Apple App Store. Odd that they weren't before, but this was announced Friday, April 5th, and Apple says the emulators must obey all laws and will remove emulators that offer pirated content. Emulators might be a big reason folks might check out third-party marketplaces, as the recent EU ruling said that Apple was going to have to allow third-party marketplaces. Apple's also going to be allowing super apps like WeChat that have games inside of them, etc. But the games inside of the super apps are going to have to be HTML5. They can't be native. And Apple's disputes with the EU, they rage on. And there was a lot in this article about other disputes that Apple was having with the EU. And you could check that out in the article by The Verge. Use any retro game emulators, Matt?
I do not. I don't. Well, I mean, I play a certain number of games, but they are, I don't play a lot of different things. I play them a lot. The few that I play a lot often, but they're not any retro. Well, do you count Minecraft as a retro game? That's not what they're talking about.
No, I'm sure they're talking about like the emulation station or MAME or something like that. I don't know how I guess it was worded that they're not, that if the emulators themselves are pirating the games, that they're going to remove them. I wonder if is that going to include the ability to add your own ROMs? Because that's how all this happens. Technically the ROMs are all pirated, but these games are so old that like even Nintendo, known for being incredibly litigious, tends just not to go after people for offering a ROM of Super Mario Brothers 2 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's good for their brand, actually, if people are playing it on, for example, I have a Raspberry Pi that I have emulation station on. It's pretty good for their brand and keeps these games alive. So I don't know how Apple's going to do this. I imagine they're just going to do it the way that like MAME or anybody else does it, where it's like, here's the emulators. We don't know how you're getting the ROMs. It's up to you. Because if they come with the games, well, now these app developers are distributing pirated material, which would be against the terms of service and technically, illegal. If these emulators don't allow you to add your own ROMs, then they're fucking useless. So it has to just be that they're just going to let you put on like Emulation Station or whatever on there, or Dolphin or whatever emulator you want, and then you have to get the thing yourself. But I just couldn't imagine like how Super Mario Brothers in an emulator on a phone. Do you connect a controller to the phone? Are there on-screen controls? How well does a D-pad work with on-screen controls?
The few games that I've played on the phone, they had on-screen controls and they were kind of terrible, right?
Yeah. I could imagine turn-based stuff like Advance Wars would be fine because you're not, you're using the controls in a different way. I don't know. I don't hear a lot about retro game emulation, for example, on like Android phones.
You can always get, I forget what the Google's project was where they were doing the cloud gaming thing, but they had the controllers that you could get that would attach to your phone. And of course they shut the whole thing down because, not billions of people weren't using it. But
was it Stadia?
Yeah, Stadia. And I think you can still get those controllers. They've unlocked them so you can use them for whatever, but you could use that.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
I think there's some other controllers that connect to your phone.
Because it's not the fact that the screen is small, it's that the controls are weird. And if you have to just like use some dongle to connect like a, Logitech controller, now this is like too complicated really for on the go. Like, what do you like, now?
Yeah.
Now you're like sitting there, you're like, oh, I'm going to be on the train for half an hour. And you spend the first 10 minutes hooking up your controller.
Well, the Stadia one, it docked, like sat in it. So that worked.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like if you have to do all sorts of weird stuff to set up your phone with a controller.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, some people are into that sort of thing. Some people, all they have is a phone.
And this is just over, we're, forgetting other use cases like an iPad. If you have the iPad on like a kickstand or of some sort, and you have like a Bluetooth or wireless controller for it, that'd be great to play Mario Brothers on. If you're on the go, if you're staying at a family's place or whatever, and you want to bring some games with you, it's a great way to do it. It's not necessarily just the phone, because it's not like Android where the tablets are hot garbage, right? The iPad is actually a pretty good device. And so it'd be pretty fun, actually. And some of the iPads, I think, are in 4:3 aspect ratio. So some of the old games would look fantastic on them. But this is good for openness. And it just appears to be that they're doing this so because they thought one of the big reasons that people might go to the third-party app stores that they're going to have to allow would be to get the emulator. And so they're just going to allow the emulator. I'm just curious, like if you get the emulator and then it doesn't let you add your own ROMs, you're still going to go to the third-party app store to get an emulator that lets you add your own ROMs.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not the another thing about the Apple devices, and it's better than it used to be, but the file system also isn't as exposed. And so it would be, if you add the ROM, say, on a different device, it's not impossible, but it's not as easy as on an Android device to just move your current ROMs over. Maybe even your save games and all that might be, just because of the way they sort of attempt to obfuscate the file system on these devices in a way that's more so than Android. But all in all, I guess this is good, except that they may find a way to turn this into malicious compliance too. Who knows? Well,
we'll keep an eye on it, right?
Yeah, or maybe not, because I don't care. If I want to play retro games, that's because I am drunk and it's late at night and I have a Raspberry Pi for that, and it does great. Plays everything up to some of the N64 games, but I have an older Raspberry Pi too. It doesn't do. I can play Rampage 64 on it. It's great, but that's because it's basically a scroller. I love that game. Anyway, I guess that's the show. You know what? I haven't read the show out in quite some time, so I'll go ahead and
I want to point out, you don't have to read the show out every single time. I can reuse the outro, but it's up to you.
It's my podcast and I'm reading the show out.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for listening to How the Tech Are You? We'll be back next week with more How the Tech Are You? If you want to find ways to support us, you can do that at echoplexmedia.com. Just click the support tab. Just give us money directly or sign up for memberships or just tell a friend about this show if you want to do that. And check out twitch.tv/echoplexmedia if you would like to be horrified. Someone once told me that there are videos that are going to appear right here. Have a great tech and week.